wait.
One second, I need a burp.
Bro.
I was kidding. Yeah.
Excuse me, sweetheart. What can I get you, Tom?
So what's the time?
It's 1:30.
No, I need to start hydrating.
For what? What are you doing?
I have a race in a bit, so I need to like hydrate.
Is this how you normally hydrate?
Yes. Is that an issue? Are there better ways to hydrate?
There can be. Yes. Cut.
Ready? 3, 2, 1. Let's go.
Hey everyone!
Welcome to the first episode of Fuel and Function, and today we're going to be talking about something that so many athletes get wrong, which is so simple, just strategies of hydration. I mean, being an athlete, I did have some sort of a hydration plan, or I just knew what I was supposed to consume before a meet or during my training, but there was no such thing that I stuck to. But I think now hydration plays a huge part in performance and how it declines if you're dehydrated. Talking about dehydration, can you tell us something about dehydration, what it is, and just in general so athletes get an idea?
So, how your fluid balance works is it's basically the amount of fluid you consume versus the output.
Okay.
So, the amount you consume is usually comprised of like the water you get from the meals you eat, from the food you've cooked, and most importantly, from your water and what you drink. So, fluid output is usually kind of measured by your urine output, your sweat, how much you're sweating. There's a little bit of water that comes out in your feces as well. So that is what basically your fluid balance is. Now, dehydration is when the output is a lot more than the input. So it's very similar to like a calorie deficit or a calorie surplus. It's very similar to that. So how much water you give out in like your sweat, your urine, everything, as opposed to how much you're taking in. So when that exceeds, that's when you're dehydrated. So usually in terms of performance, if you're losing more than 2% of your body weight in water, that's when you know you're dehydrated.
Okay, 2%. I mean, I get the numbers, but is there any way to know, like, are there any signs and symptoms that I can look for?
So what will basically happen is when you're not hydrating enough, your body is not going to produce enough sweat. So you'll start trapping a lot of heat inside. So you're going to start feeling a lot more warmer. You're not going to be like the thermoregulation balance is going to be off. On top of that, there's going to be a lot more cardiovascular strain. Any kind of exercise is going to feel a lot more difficult to do. Your focus and your concentration is definitely going to go down, not just in sport. I've noticed in class or something, when I just haven't drank enough water, I get a headache, which is almost every day. And your focus and your concentration goes down, your sweat rate is going to decrease, and you'll just have muscle cramps. All of those little things is how your body knows that you're dehydrated.
So there's also like a decline in your technique and you kind of mess up.
Definitely.
That's very valid. And for someone who's interested, is there a way that you can calculate this?
So how you'd calculate this is through your sweat rate. So you calculate your sweat rate, and that is what will kind of give you the most basic idea of how much water you should be consuming. For those of you watching, we've already dropped a reel on how to calculate your sweat rate if you're interested in doing it. So you can definitely try that out.
Yes. So that's about dehydration. And to prevent that, what are the strategies?
So there are two most commonly known strategies when it comes to hydration. One is a programmed drinking plan, which basically means that you're consuming your fluids and your electrolytes at a very specific time frame, and you're consuming specific amounts. The other method is just drinking when you're thirsty and drinking how much ever you want. So what is something that you've always done in terms of swimming?
Mostly drinking when I was thirsty.
Mostly drinking when you were
Or
thirsty.
like whenever I had the time. 5 seconds, just sip on water and leave.
What about the athletes that you've coached? What do they kind of follow?
Most of them did the same thing, but at the end of the session, I would see that if they had like a half-liter water bottle, three-fourth of it would just still have, like either the electrolytes or just plain water. And I don't think that's the best way to be training. So, what are your thoughts?
Before we go into this, we're going to insert a few clips
Mhm.
of former athletes, current athletes, coaches on how they usually drink to hydrate, and that'll probably give you some examples.
Yes.
So, in terms of the different strategies, let's first talk about program drinking.
Okay.
So, there's a lot of evidence and research that suggests that if you only drink when you're thirsty, there's a good chance your body is already dehydrated. That's why you're feeling the sensation of thirst. And it just kind of shows that you've not consumed enough liquid and enough electrolytes to replace the sort of fluid loss. So, that is what can most often happen when you drink when you're just thirsty. So, what ends up happening is when you're doing really high intensity exercise or you're exercising in a really hot climate, you're going to get extremely thirsty. Your body will send you those signals.
True.
As soon as you hydrate, the signal goes away and your body doesn't realize it needs to hydrate again until you're once more dehydrated and you get the signal again. Once the signal
Okay.
goes, you just don't realize that, okay, I'm dehydrated again, until you really feel that and you realize, oh, I need to drink more water.
That makes sense. But let's say as soon as you drink water, you're dehydrated, you drink water, the signal goes away. Is your body still under dehydration because it was dehydrated for like a good bit before that?
It does take a while for your body to go from a dehydrated
Mhm.
state to a neutral state.
Okay.
So if you are already dehydrated, just drinking water once is not going to increase it's not going to get you back to that balance immediately,
Okay.
which is why most athletes and coaches do prefer to follow a programmed drinking plan
Mhm.
where in specific intervals you drink a certain amount of water that has electrolytes as well to replenish your sodium and your potassium. But I think what ends up happening here is when you have a programmed sort of drinking plan, this will be especially helpful when the exercise you're performing is of a very long duration. So if you're running a
Right.
marathon, you're doing this kind of exercise where you're doing repeated bouts over and
Mhm.
over, this will definitely help you. And especially if you're in a hot and humid climate, that's when you're a lot more likely to get extremely dehydrated. Contradict The funny thing about this is as a swimmer, you're not going to feel the climate. Even if it's
Yeah.
hot and dehydrated, you're in water all the time.
Correct.
So you probably won't feel as like, oh, it's really hot, I'm sweating. Like those kind of things don't happen when you're swimming. So unfortunately, in that case, it's a lot easier for you to be dehydrated because you
Right.
won't feel any of the signs as you do in like land sports.
Yeah, so here's the thing. A lot of people don't know that swimmers actually sweat in water.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay. Yeah.
even though we're sweating a lot, we don't really feel as hot and we don't feel like we're losing a lot of water. So, yeah, we actually don't feel a lot of
You
thirst when
the
we're
kind of
swimming.
signals
Yeah,
that your body sends you may be at a much lower rate when you're swimming versus when you're like
and
playing a land
can be
sport.
delayed. I mean, I've caught myself chugging either water or like a protein shake post exercise once I'm like, done changing because that's when my body is like, oh, I actually need fluids.
So the thing about a program drinking plan is there can be some disadvantages if it's done
Mhm.
wrong, especially for athletes that perform in weight categorized sports. So whether it's
Right.
weightlifting, whether it's bodybuilding, even gymnastics, anything that has like a particular weight category, drinking way too much water if you're on a programmed drinking plan can cause increase in body weight. The kind of electrolytes being absorbed into your body is going to be lesser. And even as a marathon runner, so as a marathon runner, you're not in a weight categorized kind
Correct.
of sport, but the more heavy you are, the more difficult it is to kind of push yourself
Very
forward.
true.
So you need to minimize on the amount of weight you're
Mhm.
gaining before a marathon to be able to perform your best. So these are the kind of disadvantages that come with it. Now, you might be thinking that, oh, this is like the perfect way to kind of
Yeah, it
hydrate.
is. But I mean, it sometimes interferes with your training program or like a training schedule as well. So,
So the thing is, even if you follow a drinking plan, it's very
Mhm.
important to not over consume the amount you're drinking, because when you overhydrate yourself, there are downsides to that as well. It can cause mental fog, and in some extreme cases, it can be fatal. If you overhydrate, it can go wrong. So, in cases like this, there have been studies that have also kind of proven that when you drink to thirst, you drink as and when
Yeah.
you're thirsty, there is not drop in performance.
Mhm.
So, it's quite interesting to know that there's research that backs up both kind of methods
Correct.
of this. So what do you think? So if you were to read the research, what would you initially think about it? Because there's research supporting both.
I think a program drinking plan is what appeals to me right now because of all the points you just gave me. And drinking to thirst is something that we have been following and has been disadvantageous. So I'd like to hear your thoughts about drinking to thirst before I conclude.
Do you think that, this is just like an open-ended question, how do you think the results of the study, I mean, how did you get these results? Like in what kind of environment do you think these studies were conducted in?
I don't think it would be in like a particular environment because it's very difficult to, let's say, go to a very cold region or a very hot region with your participants and kind of do a study. So I'm assuming it's in a very controlled environment.
Yeah, exactly. So the important thing to notice is that both sides of research have been conducted in a completely controlled
Mhm.
environment, and it's not in a competition setting, which is the most important thing to notice. Because when you're about to compete, when you're in that kind of headspace, psychology plays a very, very big factor.
Very
So
true.
what happens with athletes is you perceive dehydration, right? Even before you get into the competition, you perceive the fact that, oh, if I don't hydrate enough, I'm going to end up dehydrated,
Correct.
and you'll end up overhydrating. That's what ends up
Yeah.
happening, because even if you're not dehydrated, psychologically you'll think that you're going to be dehydrated,
Yeah.
and that causes a complete overconsumption, which can
Mhm.
again have a negative impact on performance. So, especially if you're a marathon
Mhm.
runner or you're in a weight categorized sport, this can prove to be an advantage.
That's a lot of useful information. I think athletes now can make an informed decision on
So,
how they should hydrate. So,
since we've given you, I think, both sides of the coin,
yeah.
both the different ways, as an athlete, what do you
Mhm.
think would be the factors into determining which drinking plan should I follow? Because obviously, this is not us saying program drinking is the best or
Very
drinking to
true.
thirst is the best. Like, there's evidence that supports both. So, as an athlete, what do you think you would consider to decide what would work for you?
I think I would think about what I'm training for the day or the session. Let's say I have a recovery session. I don't think I would be following a program drinking method, hydration. But let's say I have a very high intensity workout. Let's say there's a huge set for me to like do for the day. I think that's when I would look at like a program drinking structure. Apart from this, maybe the weather.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very important. So, as an athlete, for any of you who are watching, coaches,
Mhm.
athletes, if you want to decide what to put your athlete on, depends on the kind of exercise they're doing, depends on the duration. So how long is this exercise going to go
Yeah.
on? The longer the exercise is, the more beneficial it will be to have a program drinking plan. And if you are exercising or competing in a much hotter or a humid
Mhm.
environment, that's when it would make more sense as well, because your body is more likely to get dehydrated. And on the opposite side of this, if the exercise intensity, the training session, or the competition you're doing is of a shorter duration,
Mhm.
so like sprints
Yeah.
or those kind of really, something that's not as long as a marathon, the
Mhm.
very quick sprints, your hurdles, all of those like track and field events, it's for a much shorter duration of time.
Yes.
So drinking to thirst is not going to cause a decline in performance. And especially if you're also competing in a colder
Mhm.
environment, you're less likely to get as dehydrated as you would in a hotter environment. So these are the kind of factors that you can keep in mind. So as an athlete,
Mhm.
what is my sport? How am I
Yep.
training? What does my competition look like? what kind of weather am I competing in? These can all be questions you ask yourself before you decide what kind of drinking plan should I follow.
Absolutely. I think we have a checklist for people to look at. And as for the information that we've given out today, you can find all the links in the bio. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to us. And of course, if you have any papers that contradict anything that we've said today, please feel free to like reach out, send it over to us, and we'll look at it and we'll definitely address.
Technically, the papers that we do end up putting in the bio contradict each other,
Yes.
both the papers. So it's really interesting because one side of the papers give evidence for program drinking.
Mhm.
The other papers give evidence that when you drink to thirst, there isn't a drop in performance. So it's an interesting topic to look at, especially when there's evidence supporting both. There's no this is better or that is better. It's better. It's just about what are the factors that you need to consider
Right.
to decide what works best for you.
Exactly, but we're always open for a discussion, so our chat box is open and let us know. So see you in the next video.
See you in the next episode where we haven't decided what we're talking about next.
You'll find out.
You'll find out. You'll find, yeah, as soon as we know, you'll know. So,
All right.
bye.
Bye.
See you guys in the next episode. This is a really nice discussion.
Yeah.